neighborhood of Gary, Indiana. AJ, A-Dub, Marco, and Stretch. Keeping it forthright, vulnerable, and welcome back to the show. It's another episode of the InforMILLy Honest Podcast. Y'all hear that theme music? I know it probably happened last episode too, but did you hear the new theme music?
A hot track.
Yeah.
Produced by Sam Thousand, written by myself. And that's all me.
You gotta get your tag. Y'all gotta get his tag on there.
Hearing me and all my flat ass yells. Oh no. Oh man.
So, yeah. It's channeling Busta Rhymes right
now. Oh man, speaking of which, before we get into it, do you remember we were in maybe 11th grade? McCrazy. I do.
Oh shit.
You see, so I guess you already know where I'm going. Like, do you remember that song you wrote for like? We had to do these like assignments where like it was like a creative assignment, and we could do what we wanted to. It could be a song, it could be a but I forgot what it was based on something he was reading.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was about, but I remember it was to the cadence of Push It. No, not Push It. Touch It.
Yeah. I remember.
Right.
Yeah.
I wrote a dope ass verse, man, but I just was like, I was honestly too shy and like nervous to really spit it right because it's fun. And I had Sean and Latina, he made a fucking beat. It was like me jumping with, super producer and then fucking up. I was like, God damn, this shit was so high. Like, him and I rehearsed it beforehand. He was like, that's dope, dude, just like that. And then when it comes out of this, looking at me like, what the fuck? I said, dude, just like that. He's like, dog, you falling short. What the fuck?
I had the same shit, man. I had stage fright when I finally got to do it. I realized I probably should have practiced it a lot more than I did. And
yeah, me too.
Because what was it? I got Dre to do the beat because DeAndre could always do it, and he even hit me with the turn it up, and I was like, adrenaline.
I know, bro. I know, man. I'm just like watching Sean look at me like, dog, you fucking it up for both of us. I'm like, bro, hit him with that fucking freeway and who's he freestyling with? Cassidy? Like, yo, no. Acapella, man. Acapella.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing a beat. I don't know, he was saying throwing a beat. But yeah, that was a moment, man. I remember I think I ended something like, we could even stop right here. She already gave us our A or something like that. It was
definitely Miss McCrady's class.
That moment, man.
Shout out to Carolyn McCrady.
Yes, sir.
Wherever she is, hope she's doing well. The white liberal of every film.
Yeah, she used to love her some Neil, man. She used to love her some Neil, bro.
Did she?
Yo, cut.
Know somebody you know?
But it's just funny because it came out wrong. I don't want to paint a wrong picture, man. That's all.
So speaking of these like developmental moments in your life, made this question from the new Spider-Man, Across the Spider-Verse. Canon events, right? This is a term that was created primarily in that landscape, pretty much an event that if you think about yourself, if there was a multiverse and in every universe, there's an event that you got to suffer or go through, or not say suffer, but like in their case, suffer. What's an event that you feel like you went through, or a series of events maybe that you went through, and you think you got to go through in order to be you in every universe? So, Aaron, I think you said you had one, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah. Well, first off, Brother Johnson, Brother Isham, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Deacon Thomas.
Brother, I just want to start off by saying that's a fantastic question. All right. Let me try to get focus here. I'm gonna probably have to say the issues, like the troubles. I don't know how, I guess, deep I want to get into this, but the drama amongst my family and I early on, man. Like the early childhood traumas, I guess I should say. Now I can honestly say that I'm grateful that it happened. It took a long time. And I kind of feel like in these canon events, like the Marvel universe and shit, there comes a point where they kind of reach that stage as well, where they kind of get it, you know. And that's kind of where I am. It took a while, but just like the physical, emotional abuse and shit like that, I really don't think I would be me without at least that degree or that level of challenge or like suffering early on before I kind of, got any real grasp on what a lot of shit meant,
So without by all means, we could talk into the deepness of where you are. We ain't got to get into the details of what happened if you don't want to. Let me ask this.
Yeah, you see me reaching for my water. It's about to get,
no. I'm just saying because like, oh, sometimes we could talk on the outskirts of stuff, and by all means, that's details of your life that you might not want, out on the internet. Let me ask, because you say, I don't know, for like, let's say Marvel characters or whatnot, I don't know that they accept them as like things they're grateful for as much as just the shit that they have to deal with the results of. So in your case, do you feel like you've reached a point of just acceptance? Do you feel like you reached a point of forgiveness? Do you really feel like what is your place at now in regards to those childhood traumas and the people who committed them against you?
That's a very good question. I guess, just getting back to what I said, where I feel like there's a point where the characters, like, it makes more sense to them. I don't know if they're necessarily grateful or whatever, but I just feel like there's a point in those movies where even after it might take somebody having to like remind them or like, explain it to them in a different way for them to like realize, oh shit, this is why I am where I am now. Man, the fucking forgiveness part, I feel like I've been there for a while. Just because I've seen my father since, I mean, like over the years, it's actually been years since I've seen him now, but a while ago, over the years, I would see him from time to time. And there were times when I thought I was ready and I saw him and all that shit came rushing back, like just the same. And like, it wasn't that I wasn't even tripping so much that all the shit came rushing back. It was that it all came rushing back and I still wasn't ready for it. Like I wasn't ready to accept it then or, times prior. And I wanted to run the same way I did in the past. That's how I knew, like, oh shit, yeah, I'm not ready to forgive this dude.
Right.
I could talk a lot of shit, but I think like since then I've seen him and it's been a lot lighter. Like the experience is much lighter, at least for me, I don't have to like be all lovey-dovey and all that shit if it don't feel real. But how you say you can forgive somebody from afar but it's obviously got to be like genuine in your experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. it can feel as genuine as you wanted to, boy. It could. There can always be how should I say, like distance limitations. Like I can forgive you as long as you across the street.
Nah, I mean, like I'm not holding. I'm considering it forgiveness because I feel lighter. Like I'm not holding that same anger and frustration and shit the way I used to. Like I was holding on. Like I feel like I've been able to let go of some shit and do my part. I can't control whether he does his or whether, you know what I'm saying? What he does about his part. I'm more so talking about this shit feels lighter for me. So I feel like I can handle myself better in those situations now than I did when I felt like I had no control.
Right.
Sorry. So I feel like that did not answer your your question necessarily. But
it did. Because mainly I'm just asking, like, you know, where are you now with it? Because you had mentioned that those heroes usually get to a place where they can deal with it. And so
got you. Well, I feel like, so where am I now with it? I still attribute moments of like lack of self-worth. Like I still realize that I'm still working on my child self, you know? Like definitely still working on my child self. And like a lot of this time in my life, man, has been to like nurture that and like really pay more attention to what the fuck he was saying then and is still saying now. You know what I mean? Like that and self-worth is a big thing, bro. That plays a big role. Even like standing up in front of, like I was telling you guys, I got a new job and we had this big orientation type situation. The CEO was there and they wanted to introduce the new people. And even things like that, I can like attribute, I can go back to moments then when I first felt that sense of like anxiety or fear or whatever, and it kind of got ingrained via different forms of abuse or whatever. And just that feeling of lack of self-worth. And I can still trace that shit to like moments of my life now. I'm just able to handle them differently. They don't feel like they have the same. I'm not saying, oh, sometimes I do want to run for sure, but it's like I'm less likely to come to that shit and realize I have other options, you know? So that's, I feel like I'd say where I'm at right now. I've created a little bit of space between me, like I've created enough space to see that I have other options outside of just running every time that shit comes up. So yeah, very much feel like some drama, some sort of thing that it had to be to the same degree as long as it like fucked with my self-esteem and like my sense of worth. Like whatever universe I'm in, I would have to have something like that to like help push me and drive me deeper to ask different questions in my life and figure out what the fuck it really means to me, you know?
So you believe yourself to know, like, you're saying in every universe you need to go through a pretty detrimental level of childhood trauma.
I'm not saying. I don't prefer that. No, I do not prefer that.
I'm saying that would kind of be what this equates to. You're saying like, hey, in Earth 888B, that kid got to get kicked in the chest a couple times when he's 6 years old in order so he can learn.
All right, I just want to say for anybody who's been through some shit or something similar, yes, I did laugh genuinely when he just said kicked in the chest. I did. I'm sorry, yo. I'm not promoting abuse or of any kind. That shit was just funny, dog. You know what I'm saying? We have to be able to laugh. You know what I'm saying? And you know, also anybody who wants to like judge or leave crazy YouTube comments, I have been kicked in the fucking chest. I've been through a lot of shit, so I can fucking laugh. But like, I just feel like something on that level that fucked up my self-esteem. Like maybe it didn't have to be severe abuse and stuff, but like something to that same degree that fucked up my self-esteem or self-worth. And I've been like, it's got me asking different questions about it. It kind of helped me look over the years where my attention was going. You know what I mean? And like, did that shit serve me or not? I don't know if I would have been driven as deep versus, you know, like I guess I would have been.
Let me ask this, because I don't know if trauma the source and something else is the catalyst, or was trauma the actual catalyst? So like this point of growth that you're talking about, of, you know, like dealing with your self-esteem and dealing with your self-worth and all those things, was you wanting to recover from the trauma the catalyst, or did something happen or some relationship you had was that the catalyst for wanting to better yourself and actually address those traumas that you had?
I think the pure frustration of feeling like for a long time the pure frustration of feeling like for the longest time I either had no I had no control or like no option in a lot of in regards to my suffering. I was like, oh fuck, this shit is just automated. I have no control over this. It's always running. It's whether it was like art, approaching a painting, like an art project or whatever. Just the pure frustration of like always being curious. I was always curious about a lot of things, but especially like life, religion, whatever the fuck, spirituality, whatever.
So curiosity and ambition, pretty much. Like personal ambition.
The fucking frustration. I remember mostly being so frustrated of like, there's got to be something else. I can't live like this forever. You know, I can't experience life through this perspective or through this view forever. This cannot be. And it's just feeling like I got that underlying shit always, all the time. Just the fucking frustration. And I guess I should go a little bit further and say family members of mine were exposing me to different things spiritually that showed me that there were other options, but it took me 20 plus years to even take my own journey into even really discovering that outside of hearing stories and then repeating them. That shit don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? So I honestly, I attribute it, I think the wrong view, the wrong identity. I'm not even, for lack of a better word, not trying to put so much energy into good and bad, right and wrong, but just the unhelpful view that I took came from like really, really absorbing and taking in this idea that I was worthless. That came from the physical and emotional abuse and watching my family go through the same shit. So then that wrong sense of that wrong view, or that view that didn't work for the betterment of myself or anybody in my mind, was kind of drove a lot of things. And I would like to some degree be aware of it all the time, and it just fucking would drive me crazy.
Word.
You know?
Yeah. Well, if I can affirm you, much like the W on your chest hair implies, you're a winner. And so
appreciate it, man. I appreciate you digging and asking good questions too, man, because sometimes that helps. That'll help me give an answer that perhaps I haven't really thought of. You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely. And I think that's we talk a lot about, you know, how we're having these conversations and perspective and all of that. So I think us having follow-up questions for each other is always helpful. Marco, AJ, y'all want to jump out there? Y'all need me to go?
I'll go with one. It's a little bit lighter, and I think we probably have a few throughout our life, and it probably don't have to be. I think it have to be the exact same event, but something that maybe had the same outcome. Okay. So, for instance, I'll give like so when we were young and coming out of elementary school and whatever.
Shout out to Banneker Achievement Center.
Shout
out to Banneker Achievement Center.
Shout out to the Bobcats.
Yep.
So I was always into art and doing art in my spare time, and you know, in all different ways, and Adam as well, you know. But I was going to follow my family's path to go to West Side, but I would say one event that was kind of like a Canon event is like the audition to go to Emerson. I say that because it forced me to make a why can't I think of the word, a portfolio, and conjure up the confidence to go, show others, my abilities, and I feel like that the event of the the actual audition gave me confidence for life, and kind of affirmed through the judges there. One of them I actually knew, and then one of the teachers. It kind of gave me the confidence and that I needed to show me that I did have some type of skill, and what's the word? I guess it was mostly a confidence thing and a catalyst for me to keep being creative. And I could have spent a lot more time on my portfolio, so I might, I might have still carried that some procrastination throughout my life, but as far as the creativity and the confidence, I think it gave me that. So that was one that I could think of like on the spot.
That's a really good one. And
yeah, really.
What's funny is I don't even know if it occurred to me. I'm like, oh yeah, getting into Emerson probably is like a really big Canon event.
And for meeting like my friends, like my main friends for my life, and I mean not meeting. I mean I pretty much already knew y'all except for Aaron, but it was. I think I would do it again.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yours essentially is like the it's the catalyst for us coming together, and then now it turned into this. Turned into this.
It merges y'all universes.
Yeah, man.
I didn't even think of this in a artistic, and I can't go back now because I don't want to steal your answer. but
I'll gonna be whack.
You can have more than one.
I'll say this much though. I'm not gonna use that as my answer, but I'm gonna just agree. Like that definitely is. That's I think that's something for all of us, because like, I still create things and just have that same like mentality of not deadlines for assignments, but like I want to get this done so I can move on to the next, kind of as if we're in like Miss White's class or something. But for me, I guess I'll go now. But I guess for me, I've been trying to figure out what like, and I guess for me, I'm gonna go with my adoption, and like, and I would say like recently I've been. When I say recently, I'll probably say, I don't know, like the last 2 years or so, maybe 3. But basically, I've been thinking about it probably the most that I ever have, because like as a kid, I didn't never really. I'm not saying never crossed my mind, because it did, but it wasn't as. I wasn't as like curious about things. Like I just like I knew that I was adopted from like the youngest that I could recall. So there was never like this shocking, like when when you hear stories about a family sat their 18-year-old down to tell them they're adopted. If you ever, as an adopted person, I'm gonna let you know that's a terrible idea to not do that. It's best to just tell them as soon as they're old enough to understand. I mean, there's no. Well, I mean, there could still be some level of animosity, but I mean, at least they can deal with it as they grow, versus spending almost 2 decades of your life thinking. Although I feel like a lot of times you can just tell, like these can't be my, There's no way I came out of this, woman. I look nothing like her.
Yeah. There's no way my dick is that long. There's no way, God. There's no way.
So you had moments that you thought that and kind of just didn't want to go into thinking about.
No, I knew I was adopted since I feel like I've always known that. So there was never I never got old enough to think that, because I'd have been informed as like age 3 or something, 4. So I was like, oh, okay, and I didn't at the time I didn't think anything of it, like, because my parents,
that's kind of a young age to even be able to kind of process that,
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of having the parents that I had, because they were. I'm not saying they were the best parents on the planet, but for me in my situation, being an adoptee, and for me, I always think about, like, what if my biological parents were like on drugs? What if they were, doing this? What if it was only one of them because one ran off? Like, and I'm like, I could have been, and I was born in Dayton, Ohio, which is not a great place to raise a kid. So, like, who knows? Yeah, I mean, who knows what my life would have been? Like, and then another thing, with the air quality being bad from like the fires and stuff. My mom texted me, like, it was like the first week of this, like a few weeks ago, and my mom texted me to ask me like how I was doing with the air quality, because I actually used to have asthma as a baby, and that's what she was. And that was the reference, and I was like, I mean, I don't need more, so I basically just like, I don't need to have this anymore. but anyway, but no, like, but she was saying, I didn't even know this until I was 32, but apparently my biological parents were smokers, and I was like, I didn't know that. And it's like, for most people, that's not a big deal, because, like, yeah, I see them smoke every day, but I didn't get that, so like that. And then there's things where, like, since forever, like, there would be small things, like, that people would say, and it's like, I don't know, I don't know what that's like. Like, people like, dang, you look just like your mom. I'm like, oh, you look just like your dad. And it's like, I don't, and like when people would say stuff like that, I'm not saying it would hurt my feelings or anything, but it would always be like dang, I don't even know, I don't even know what my parents looked like. And I don't even know they were smokers until I was 34 years old, So it's like, so I would say that that's definitely a thing that's, I would say I've come back to, because like I said, for like a good 20 years, I'm not going to say it never crossed my mind, but it wasn't like a thing I was really that interested in investigating. And I'm not saying I'm going to go out on a search I'm not going to do that to myself.
Be on the A24 film.
That was definitely going to be one of like my follow-up questions. Like, if that's something you're curious to do eventually, is find out more about them. Maybe not necessarily for the sake of meeting them, but just finding out more about them. So like, to get like, family history, family tree, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So for that, yes, I am interested in that. But as far as like the dramatic meetup, I'm not interested in that. I just don't think I don't want to put myself through that. I don't want to put them through that if they're alive. I don't, like I said, I don't even know. I can't even begin to speculate if they're even still on the planet or not. So, I would definitely say that. And then just to, I guess to wrap it up, like, that put me in this household where, I'm not saying I would raise my kids in the way I was raised. And what I mean by that is dragging them to church every Sunday, like not giving them an option to think like for themselves in that regard. And I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's bad to take your kids to church. But for it to be such a like domineering, like, part of my life is like, dang, like, it's like, but anyway, I'm still appreciative of having a roof over my head. There was never a day where I was concerned about where the food was going to come from. That was never anything I had to worry about. So in that sense, I can't complain. Like, there's so many people that don't get that. Whether we're in the United States, whether we're outside the United States, whatever. So in that sense, and then also another thing I always consider is like how me and Kirsten met, and I was like, I mean, what are the odds? Because again, I was adopted, from Ohio, came all the way to Indiana. She was not adopted, but she grew up in like 4 or 5 different states as a kid. And I mean, what are the odds that she ends up in Gary, Indiana? We cross paths. So I always think of these things, and I'm not even like a I'm not a spiritual person, honestly. And I'm not a universe person. I'm not a energy person. I'm none of that. But
I do all those things.
but like I just also feel like, dang, what are the odds that, you know, two people that's, you know, were all, you know, just nowhere near each other end up in Gary of all places, you know, and it's like, so I do think like, dang, you know.
That's so true. And you know, I feel like I had this conversation with Marco. I don't know why it stands. I'm sure we've all had conversation, just us four of us to the wee hours of the night. You know. But I remember one particular convo I had with Marco, just something that stood out about, like, we were talking about possibilities and probabilities about things. And how can you ever really know what the probability of it, like, what's the probability of any fucking thing being guaranteed? You know? It's just such a funny concept to me, man. You know, like, oh, there's a 60% chance that, like, what?
You know what's funny is that, like,
I know what I'm saying? Like,
I love thinking about probability, but I know I don't think about, like, the specificity of it, I guess. Like, I don't believe anything is impossible, but I think everything is unlikely. And so, like, so I'm always in a place of, like, it's probably not going to happen, but if it does, great. But it's not.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess it helps with the letdown.
That's what I was saying.
Not being let down.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For sure. It lands just a wee bit softer. You know. You know? It is just fun. It's just like, what are the odds of anything happening exactly the way you know what I'm saying? Like, the way it does. There's probably so much shit that goes along with that we'll never fucking know how, you know.
That is a thing with the whole multiverse theory and whatnot. It's like everything in your life is one event or decision, etc., from putting you on a very different path. Assuming you're even still a person. Like, there could be a universe where you're a horse, or like everything is made of nipples. Like, you don't know.
Yeah. And I know I know things can be more predictable. That's where I think a lot of people are getting their, like, you know, confidence in, like, saying this will happen, or like their probabilities, because things are predictable. But, like, motherfuckers change the drop of a dime sometimes. Emotions change the drop of a dime. You know, like, so many things. Like, that's the thing. One of the things that I like about these like superhero movies, and just movies like that, where they go through that, or I guess you can call it the what is it, I guess most superhero movies are what's that thing? The hero's journey. There we go.
Oh yeah.
It's just like they're going through that shit. They're failing. They're fucking up, and then every time the villain just assumes we got this again because it's predictable based on the past, and then the motherfucker's like, nah. You know, not this time, dog. Not this time. Satan or whoever, whatever popular phrase. Not today, Satan, or whatever. It's like, I just love that, because it's a reminder that, yes, things are predictable, but come on, man. What are the odds of anything happening exactly what we think or we know?
That's real. Adam, I had another follow-up question. If you're saying your canned event is the adoption, is it being is the hope that you are always adopted into a good household, or that in every universe you're adopted by these people? I know that sounds like a kind of fucked up question.
No, I'm trying to. No, it's not. I don't look at it that way. But it is a good question. I think, you know what? I think it's got to be them, because, like, it's got to be Tom and Lillian, because, like, they, I don't know, they instill such a like a dependability, I guess. And I'm not saying all of it. I mean, they brought us all up the same way. I mean, it didn't take to everyone the same way, because everyone's different.
Right.
But I just think the way my parents raised us is, like, you know, from a very young age, they raised us all to be very responsible, and we take care of ourselves.
independent. Yeah.
And I just, I love that. And I grow up and I get into the workforce and I'm like, I can tell you weren't raised by people like my parents. I can just tell that. Like, you can just tell because there'll be grown adults who don't know how to do like basic things. I'm like, how do you not know how to do that? But, and for me, I don't want to trade that. Like, I don't want to be a useless adult. But not only that though, because there's other things that my parents did that, like they supported, for example, like a lot of like super Christian households, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like they're not as concerned about the arts. I might be making that up. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up, but
it depends.
I just feel like my parents are very supportive of like, if you want to do something, do it. Like it's not, they've never been like, I don't know about that. I mean, the closest thing I could say my parents were, which is odd because like almost everybody in my family was in the military at one point, but, and I think it was a timing thing. But when I told my parents that I wanted to join the Air Force, my dad was like, I don't know, because this was like 2008, 2009, the war in Iraq was like
taking the Iraq war at the point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that was more so the
concern.
hesitation, which, I get that, but I mean, I'm here. So I never even went to Iraq, went to Afghanistan, but anyway, but besides that, they've always been super supportive. Like, if you want to do that, like, like when I left the Air Force, they're like, is that something you want to do? Yeah, go for it. And just it's never like I know a lot of parents, they're like, they try to push their kids in a certain direction,
right?
Which if it's a good direction, sure, I get it, but also though, we also know parents that literally try to control their kids' life. Like, oh, I think you should go to this school, or I think you should, go after this career path. And my parents, they've always, in fact, my mom, she taught me how to sew, like in high school, like when I was making t-shirts,
right?
Like my mom taught me how to do that. In fact, I've actually been sewing again, but for like the last few months. But but yeah, so it's like, and I never even thought about like until like maybe a couple years ago how much of a creative my mom is, because a lot of times this is kind of like a term that we use in our kind of like in our youth, whatever.
Yeah.
But my mom, she's in her 60s, like she's very much a creative. Like, she makes blankets, she makes, she sews, she crochets, she does like all these things. I'm like, and then my dad is the same way. Like and a lot of stuff, like the building aspect that I like to build and, creatively put things together. I get that from him. So like, it's almost like, although I'm adopted, I've still taken these traits from my parents, from both of them,
absolutely,
and kind of put them together, because I do things that they both do. Like I'm not saying I like to cook, but I think I'm a pretty good cook, and my parents taught me how to cook. Parents these days don't teach their kids how to cook. So, so I'm appreciative.
Tell you about these kids these days, they don't know shit. It's valid. It is valid. But
I love that, Adam, man. I'm sorry. No, go ahead, bro. No, I was just gonna say that that's a big testament to his parents, man. And I just love that, like that encouragement of being independent so early on, and they just continue with that. It was like, okay, you want to do art? Go ahead. Like, that's just a continuation of, let's encourage this independence. Like, you can do it. We've already, you can be independent and figure these things out on your own. I love that. And like, I remember moments like, because I'm listening and I'm thinking, and what hit me is like, my aunt attempted the same thing and some of it slipped through, but I remember moments where I was just too busy dealing. Because specifically when you were like, yo, you running a certain adult, so like, how the fuck can you not do that? And I'd be like, damn, I feel the same way. Like, that, come on, man. You're like, come on, dog. You can't, like, do your own laundry, fam. It's not that hard. But then I'm thinking like, man, I remember also how heavy emotions and different things, like it just it thwarts your ability to learn even things that seem so simple, man. If you're struggling with that or really going through it,
Yeah.
No, it just brought me back to like moments when my aunt was pretty much doing the same thing. She's always preached that same like independence, and she would like always whenever we were driving, she would always have us pull out the map and like tell her where we're going, like what direction and blah blah blah. And checks and always thinking I fought back every fucking step of the way, dude. So a lot of it was hard. Adam was just simply less hard headed. You know what I'm saying? I was hard headed, but also like it got me thinking specifically the comment of like grown adults not being able to do shit. I'm like, man, I wonder how much I would have been able to get shit and like really absorb things better if I wasn't struggling with just heavy ass emotions. It was hard to like really comprehend, like retain the shit the way I wanted to, man.
Right.
You know? Anyway, I wasn't trying to like break it down. It just really, it hit me because I saw a parallel in my life and how what my aunt was trying to do.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, just to comment on that, like the hard-headedness, well, in the Johnson household, hard-headedness was not tolerated. So there was no avenue for that. So it was like, you're going to do what, the parents say. And that's
right.
It's just that, it's,
gotcha.
But, I mean, obviously every guardian, parent, system, whatever is different. So,
right.
And my dad just didn't play that. My dad, like, even in his age now, he still works out. He's still very much a relatively fit man. And like, even in his older years, he would still whoop us and beat us. And I know we're not supposed to do that to kids, but
I was about to ask that. Okay, I was about to ask that of all of y'all, but like, and I know Marcus has to go too. But I was about to.
Marcus,
my bad. You did. My bad. I was about to ask that, like, because I don't remember ever hearing about. I know I got my ass whipped, and I know I deserved a lot of it. But I was wondering about the rest of y'all, man. I don't know that it was like that. I don't know that I knew that y'all got, whipped, or maybe you just didn't do enough shit to get whipped.
Oh no. My mom was.
We all did.
Yeah, my mom was the disciplinarian. My dad was the jokester, but as all y'all know. But yeah, I think the worst 2 beatings I ever got. My mom whooped me from around. Y'all remember how my room used to be around the hallway?
Yeah. I get like down the hall, then bathroom.
like behind the wall in the hallway.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so my mom got the longest belt she had when me and Jamal were fighting once. Slung the belt around the wall so it like wrapped and lashed me across the back like a slave. And so that was one of the worst ones from her. And then my dad, because he didn't really discipline and all that kind of stuff, whenever he did, it felt more, like his disappointment felt like the whooping.
Oh, yeah.
And so I remember after I got kicked out of Tolliston, I think I've said this before, but after I got kicked out of Tolliston and I still wasn't doing my fucking homework when I went over to King, I had like a G in art.
I always forget about that.
He was like, dude, what the? He's like, what the fuck? And he was carrying a Post Tribune. And he rolled it up and smacked me across the head with it. Because he was like, what the fuck are you doing?
He was like, bro, no son of mine, I love anime this goddamn much and get a D in art. He's like, yo, drop the fucking Dragon Ball Z or something. I was like,
the art class was kind of whack, man.
It was so bad. Like, it was I just wasn't trying.
It was terrible, bro.
Was Smith Todd Blitzer the teacher there? Because I know he was teaching at Kennedy King for a little bit. Or was it Word he was teaching that?
I think it was Word he was teaching there because I don't remember. I think we had a woman.
Did we have a teacher? Like,
I just remember it being in a room that wasn't really our room. It looked like it used to be a woodshop room.
Oh, okay.
I could teach this art class, man.
I just remember like all the classes were bad, but it was so remedial. That's how I knew I wasn't trying.
It really was.
Like we were in 7th grade. We were in 6th grade, 7th grade doing fractions, and I was like, man, I did this when I was 7. Like this is some bullshit.
They were like, all right, today in the art class we're gonna be doing paper airplane.
Yo, that might have been a real thing. They had us painted as the art project. Like it was bad. And I'm not even the visual art. I'm the one of us that's not a visual artist. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, why are we here learning about primary and secondary colors? Like, what are we doing?
That's crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I definitely got beat. My mom did most of the beating though.
Yeah, my dad was the enforcer.
Both of my parents did some whooping, even Lillian. But obviously, you know, I would much rather my mom spanking than my dad. Obviously, my dad, like, dude, he had this belt. You know, my dad worked in the steel mill. You know, they're just different characters. Like, he had this leather belt, this thick, like, it had to be like, I don't know, maybe a good 1/8 of an inch, which that's pretty thick for leather. I mean, like, so that's what, you know, what he would use. And it's like, man, and like I said, my he's not no small dude. Like, you know, he's a big dude. So that wasn't a pleasant time. But
in real life, if I really think about it, I think I've heard Adam's dad say like 30 words in my entire life.
No, he a preacher, so I mean, or minister, I guess.
I think it was just, you know, we were young. Yeah. Like by the teenage years, you were driving or I was driving and just didn't see him that much. But I was like, as I think about it, I talked to your mom way more than I ever talked to your dad.
Well, yeah, because he was never, I mean, not that he was not a deadbeat dad, but he literally was just at work. So, I mean, because you know, the time that we would be at the house, he would be at work. And I was never there. Or, you know, like, I guess you could say, like, in our years of growing up, like, you know, he would probably get home about 6 or 7. And that, so if we're at the house, he's probably at work. And then I never wanted to be at my house late anyway, like later in the day. So we were probably out, you know, somewhere. So that's probably the reason.
Word.
But yeah.
But shout out to them, Tom and Lily and the great people. What is mine? Okay, so I think my Canon event is Adam smacking the shit out of me and telling me I'm not a fighter. I'm not a fighter at all.
That's funny.
Me and Adam got into a basketball squabble once.
I know. I remember this story vividly. It wasn't basketball. Sorry to
no, please, because my memory is.
I know the story. Like, so we were having like a water fight. We had like water guns.
Right.
Like water guns, water balloons, whatever. We had everything.
Being outside of my house.
Yeah. And like what happened was there was a ceasefire, basically the equivalent of a ceasefire. But I was like, and I had this big old like 32-ounce cup of water. We had everything. And like I threw it at you like after we had already chilled out. No. Yeah, that's what happened. And you pushed me, but because of where I was, I literally was standing at the corner of the house. Right. So where the corner is,
it's a brick house.
Yeah. So you pushed me, and that crease literally split my back basically. And that sensation did not feel good, so I slapped you. Like, that was bad.
Like overhead. Like it was such a reactive slap. I didn't even know it happened. Like it took me a second to realize it happened.
Yeah, I remember that.
In my whole brain, I went, okay, so that's the end of this squabble because I don't think I'm gonna retaliate after that. So apparently, I'm not a fighter.
Okay, I thought he actually told you. Like you was about to like square up, and he was like, "Josh, wait a minute, yo, take a second. This is a fucking this is a Canon moment in your life right now. Do you really want to do this? Do you really want to do this? You're not a fighter, bro."
When you just realize some shit, like in the moment, you go, I don't think I'm actually gonna fight. So I guess that's not the person I am. I don't even remember feeling like fear or like I think I may lose if I try to fight. I just remember going, I think that's where the sentence ends. That was the period right there. Like I was subject, he was predicate.
The enlightened.
Hit you with that catchphrase. Just say what you want.
But no, that's what I mean. Like, I don't. I think that's the funniest part to me was like, it wasn't like I went, oh man, if I continue this, it's not gonna go well. That was just, it was all reaction. Like the reaction of like, hey man, come on, we stopped. And then, hey man, that fucking hurt.
If you could have got him back on that corner, man, you could have done some damage.
Literally. And then everything in me was just like, yeah, I think that was the end of that.
Yeah, it's funny because it kind of just fizzled. It was like, okay,
we both stopped. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do after this.
It literally was reactionary, like you said. Like it literally was because it was so quick. I'm like, oh dang, I just really slapped this dude like that. But I mean, like when I say this, it hurts so bad though. Like
no, I don't doubt that.
Like I just had to. Like something needs to be done here.
I feel like he was like, yeah, you were wrong. Like
something needs to be done.
But you know what though?
Mean. Yeah, when it's that painful, you got to do something, man.
No, yeah.
There actually was another time. There was no retaliation because it was an accident. But do you remember? My memory for these things are crazy. But this was we were actually wrestling we were at Banneker, maybe like third, fourth grade, and I don't know what happened, but all I remember is I bit my tongue. But with the sharp teeth, whatever they're called.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So one of those like went in my tongue.
Oh shit.
So aggressively that there was a hole in my tongue. I'm not saying you can see through it or anything, but there was like
definitely was a puncture.
Yeah, there was a puncture, and that shit hurt so bad. Sure. And I went inside, rinse my mouth out, and later in the day, being the hot sauce addict that I am, completely forgot about that. Put hot sauce in my food and going to eat, and I'm like. It's just like, I just paused like, man, this is crazy. Because there was literally like a hole in my tongue for a few days until it closed up. But, yeah, that crap hurt.
Oof.
Yeah.
You said that happened because me and you were wrestling?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but how kids are,
Yeah, definitely.
And then I bit my tongue. Like I say, it wasn't, obviously nothing happened on purpose, but but I just stopped whatever we doing. I just stopped and just went inside. Like, all right, I'm done.
If it's third or fourth grade, we were definitely on some WWF.
Yeah,
I was about to say we had some real extreme matches. Outside.
Absolutely.
Do y'all remember the bridge? It was like the wooden playground, and there was that bridge, and we used to have these Royal Rumble type matches on the bridge, but it wasn't a sturdy surface, so that kind of made it more fun.
Because it was
we would try to we would try to push people off the bridge.
This was at King or Banneker? Okay.
Banneker,
it's funny because I was doing that same shit with Lamont and Nobel. Funny, man. It's just funny how worlds collide like that, man.
Yeah, wrestling was it was influence. Very influential.
90s? Hell yeah.
Yeah, wrestling was everything at that time, man, for real.
Yeah. I mean, it had to be the peak. I feel like. I mean, maybe the 80s too, but definitely the 90s. Because it literally influenced the whole generation of kids.
Yeah, my brother had the Stone Cold shirts.
Oh yeah, all the shirts, merch. NWO shirts.
I like NWO stuff.
I would still wear it. I love their logo. I would still wear an NWO shirt.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
That was the movement, man.
Yeah.
It was white and black or red and black.
Got the wolf pack.
I was the wolf pack, bro, for sure.
Yeah, wolf pack.
But the other kind of event for me, I'm sure, just on some more like really influential shit was meeting Aiga. Because I think prior to that, I was always considered tall and just a big awkward person and all that kind of stuff. And then meeting this 6'7" motherfucker that's all muscle, whose leg could go up. He was still doing his splits at the time. He could do everything. And beautiful fucking dancer and just so knowledgeable and all of that. And so when I met his big ass, I was like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it, kind of shit. And so kind of being in his shadow for the last, I don't know, almost 20 years. That was definitely a big thing. So probably those two things definitely. Adam slapping the shit out of me, and then meeting Aiga. In every universe, Adam has to slap the shit out of me. I can realize I'm not a
fighter. And I don't think I'm not a fighter either, honestly.
I think I will and have fought in other situations and whatnot. But I'm like, that was the time I was like, oh yeah, like there's no like reactionary thing like, oh, we gotta throw hands now.
Yeah.
That's not just a go-to thing.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes I've had these thoughts like, man, I kind of want to get into a fight just to see if I can fight. I don't even know. Like, cause like I haven't been in an adult fight. So like it's not the same as being in a fight when you're in the 5th grade.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, dang, I don't want to get in when I end up in the hospital though.
The thing is, you don't know who got skills now.
Yeah.
Yes. Dude,
and also I don't know what I'm capable of.
So many people have their Canon events when they get their ass whooped and realize, oh shit, I'm not what I thought I was. That's a lot of people's Canon events, man. Like you gotta and they say like a lot of people who can actually fight are real calm in those situations because they know they can fuck you up.
And it's motherfuckers that are loud and shit like that who can't.
Yeah.
I was about to say I've had moments where I had a weird amount of restraint for not fighting people that I probably should have. Just and I literally would be thinking like, damn, I'm really about to hurt this person. Like for real, like the amount of rage in some instances, and just like I had like calculated like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and that and this. And I knew Sherlock Holmes. And I couldn't go and just really hurt that person because I know I was going to. And it was weird that I was so I was just so
clear with it at a young age.
Yeah.
That's what's
but sometimes you do have reactionary stuff that, you know,
absolutely.
It just happens so fast that you do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, bro. I know this is so crazy. I really, this is about to be some wild shit, but I really wish Mike Tyson was on this fucking episode, man. Really, yo, man. All right, that's my, that's what I got.
So real quick in our last couple minutes, I do want to do this. We always circle back to music in some ways, and so we're talking about Canon events, and DJ Canon, one of the pioneers of the game, Gangsta Grizzlies. Canon. Probably insert that. But
that's definitely that definitely gotta find that.
When you hear that tag, what's the first song that comes to mind? I'm throwing mine out there to make sure none of y'all take it. The Art of Storytelling Part 4, Andre 3000's verse.
God damn it.
So I walked walked in the bedroom. Thought to myself, that's the shape of things to come. She said, why in the club you don't make it precipitate? You know, make it rain when you can make a thunderstorm. I'm like, why? The world needs sun.
The world needs sun. Yeah. It's my favorite part. The world needs sun. Yo, that's the best. He got the best one, Black. He got the best one.
For me, like it's not that I don't even remember any lyrics from the song, but I just remember the song. But there was a Lil Wayne song. I honestly think it was called Canon, actually, and it was one of those songs where like we've all heard them. Where like
the Canon,
they put the verse in between them saying it.
Exactly. They used the sample as a word of the verse.
Yeah.
So, and I
that
think
was a big song. Yeah.
I remember this was like the era where like I was hanging out with like. I mean, I always hung out with Lamont, but I was hanging out with Lamont a lot, and he was really all about Wayne in this point of his life.
So he was epic. It was like,
it was. Yeah, so I just remember that song for some reason. And really a lot of Lil Wayne mixtapes, really because of Lamont. But I would say that song, honestly. I want to go back and listen to a lot of those the mixtape era, like the mid 2000s.
It was actually pretty decent, man. Those mixtapes, I would say, was better than some of his albums.
That's a lot of yeah.
The thing I like about mixtape or liked about mixtapes was like they didn't necessarily have to be They didn't have to be about like anything, honestly. And which is fine. I don't mind that, you know, as a mixtape. But like when it comes to the studio album, I'm gonna need a little bit more, you know, direction. Like,
mixtapes used to be the shit because they will actually, especially Lil Wayne, kind of created the fact that you use the best beats that you like from other artists,
and
do what you think, what you thought you should have been done, or put your style on it. But that's what mixtapes used to be, and that's and they used to throw some original beats in there, from now and then. But that's what I really used to like about mixtapes, because it would be some beats that I was like, man, I wish so-and-so would have been on that one or done that.
Yeah.
And then your favorite artist would do it. And it's like, dang, that it was like a match made in heaven when it came to that.
Absolutely, bro.
That's what I used to love about like the Fahrenheit 115 mixtape. Because you're like,
oh yeah,
like hearing Lou do a quick verse on like the talking about the
or Dead Presidents,
or Dead Presidents.
Like, Chicago, like man,
Deadfall.
That had to happen.
Deadfall, right?
Like for me, an iconic mixtape for me is the when Pharrell did the.
That was gonna be my Canon one.
Oh really?
I remember he did.
There's so many like RZA beats on there. Well, not so many, but I think there's a few RZA beats on there, which, you know, he's one of my favorite producers. So it was, at the time, he wasn't per se. But it's interesting though, because a lot of that mixtape stands out in my mind because of the beats that they chose to use. But anyway, I just think that was a underrated era. Although I think most people would agree that it was a great era. So maybe it was underrated. Yeah.
So I'll just say, you know, when because the Pharrell wasn't like the most popular or whatever, but when I feel like Pharrell did the Canon mixtape, that was like marriage of two like cultures, kind of, because it's like I wasn't expecting that, and I always like when I hear like an alternative point of view on like some hard music and stuff like that. So I just really remember that point in time when that happened. So yeah, that's my, and I don't have a specific song, but obviously I could think of one of the, you know, the Wayne ones, but that was probably one of the most influential ones.
Great call.
That I heard. The Canon.
Yeah. Well, my favorite one was that Pharrell one. That was my favorite one. But the only ones that I actually like that stood out to me that I remember most from that era are the Lil Wayne ones. I mean, it's the same shit we all say. You know,
I mean, he owned like I can't call myself a fan today. I can't deny that he didn't dominate the airwaves.
Sure. He dominated
or not, he dominated like for those like 3 years. Like you can
honestly like. I've been a fan of I've been a fan of a few of the Carters for sure. They surprised me. And I was like, oh, this is like, I didn't know that he could do this on like some of these songs. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that he could do this. Shit. Like it impressed me, you know?
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah, I had the Carter, the first one. But I really used to like early as time went on, like I felt like he was using the same formula too much and just kind of
that. Yeah, I agree with that. But don't you want to put his feet in the blood?
He was so overrated at one point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, I think for him, I think when he can stay on track, when he can stay on topic,
rare.
He's good. But it's like he just starts rambling. I'm like, what?
When you put out so much of volume, then it's
hard to do that.
You just put out a lot of music.
Exactly, and that's why I respect people like Kendrick so much, because like he'll resurface, you know, every 4 years or so, you know, make an album, go on tour, and then you don't hear from him. And I like artists that do that because they give you an opportunity to miss them. So like, you know,
they
like,
actually go work on it.
Yeah,
they live life.
And, you know, and they're living a little. Yeah, like they're also living a bit too.
And that's important.
You can't stay in the studio forever. You got to like get some experience. You got to travel and do something.
Yep.
Have other shit to talk about, I guess.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, what's that one? The one song when Pharrell's like bragging about his new place and shit. Was that on that mixtape where he's talking about? It's, you know, I just signed a new deal.
Yeah,
I got the new crib.
It's so lavish.
It's so lavish. It's so spacious. That shit had me cry. That was one of my favorite, man. I'm always dying when I hear that.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to those today when I'm cleaning up.
And with that, we come to. I'm sorry, Marco.
I just want to mention this one album that I used to listen to is you know how Pharrell had his solo album In My Mind.
Yeah.
But, Questlove did a remix album like with the like original beats or live beats from that album.
Really?
I know that.
It was so dope. Like I gotta revisit that because I used to listen to that all the time.
Yo, put that in the group chat when you find it.
Yeah, for real.
Please do, yeah.
Yep.
We can possibly put in the liner notes of the YouTube too. In the description box, rather. But with that, we will close and thank y'all for joining us for another episode of the InforMILLy Honest Podcast. We thank y'all. We hope that you'll join in the conversation. You know where to write us, InforMILLyHonestPodcast@gmail.com, and hit us up on IG at InforMILLyHonest. And by all means, you can hit up the other ones too, Facebook, Twitter, InforMILLy_HP. And fellas, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I don't know, man.
Take that as a no. All right. So, as the song suggests, you know, any person you connect with, any kind of camaraderie and relationship that you engage in, and whoever you stick it or get stuck by, we hope that you'll be forthright. We hope that you'll be vulnerable. And we always pray that you will be giggity goddamn honest. Appreciate you and peace. Love.
Peace out. Go Bears.
Peace, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Four brothers from the Miller neighborhood of Gary, Indiana. Four brothers from the Miller neighborhood of Gary, Indiana.